Bitcoin dumping all the way down to the hells and below, might even reach Baldur's Gate 3 at this point. It's a great game, by the way. And I do want to actually come at this video from a bit of a different perspective today, or a bit of a different angle, in the sense that I want to be going over what the very important daily closure is going to essentially decide for the next few days to come. So today's analysis is really all focused on the daily closure. Basically, one of two things will naturally happen, and well, depending upon which one happens, it's going to naturally increase, severely increase the probabilities of continuation on that side. So we'll be going over that today, obviously. And other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little Monday morning. It's a new week, new opportunities, all sorts of good new stuff. And first things first, I do want to follow up on the setup that we identified all the way back on over here on the 6-hour time frame for November 24th. We revisited it over this past weekend, over the past few days, and identified that, hey, we got the red check mark over here, which is a signal that from this particular setup, it is starting to get into like outlierish territory in terms of in terms of what you can expect for it. So you might even say it's a good time to be taking some off the table, loosening up a bit. Of course, the purple signal over here, the purple check mark that you can maybe just barely see, and maybe if I zoom in a little bit more, that's the average gains that you typically expect from these setups. But ultimately, both of these were hit. Basically, the outlier one was almost, pretty much at the top of this rally, and now we've actually gotten a sell signal on the other side. I would say personally that this sell signal is not super concerning just yet. It's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more actionable, or potentially actionable once the daily closes. So now I want to bring you over into the most important number for the daily today, which, if met, would actually imply that this is going to be a great sell signal and things are going to come back down rather severely if it were to happen. But of course, it all depends on where the daily closes. So let's go over here. Speaking of the daily, we're going to be looking at the daily HPDR bands range. And as you can see, Bitcoin wicking perfectly down to that blue 50% of historic returns range low and bouncing off pretty significantly thus far. I mean, of this dump, which basically started just below $44,000 and got all the way down to just above $40,000, it's reclaimed about 50% of that already, which is a bit of a signal in and of itself, although it's a long day left to go. It's 16 hours, 15 minutes, and 21 seconds and counting. Had to wait for this one, but yes. Here's the thing. If Bitcoin closes and reclaims the median here, which is this white line that my cursor is currently tracing right now, I would be looking at this as just a quick weekend washout before further continuation to the upside, likely a short-term move in the next few days back above $45,000, and potentially continuation, over the next couple of weeks still to 46 to 47-ish region. By the same token, if Bitcoin fails and closes below, especially 42,000 even, but even 42,400 would be kind of concerning. I would be looking at Bitcoin as a lot more likely to come back down and start to play out this setup over here, the 6-hour time frame sell, and probably at least refill this wick all the way down to low $40,000. And maybe even make new lows on top of that, perhaps all the way down to $36,500 to $37,000. That's kind of what's at stake right now. The reason why I say that is because if we go over here, wrong time frame, but correct chart, we do see that there are 1, 2, 3 potential drives of bearish divergence come off this last few highs right here. I've already hit the easy target on that one. The next one would be $37,000, basically the prior base. Personally speaking, I do think that that's a lot less likely to be happening. But hey, if Bitcoin does start to close below the median at 42,400 on today's daily, which right now is below by about $300, well, I would really have to. I would at least be looking for Bitcoin to refill this this wick that we saw today at low $40,000, and probably most likely to continue on with that downside. But until then, the response thus far has actually been pretty good for the bulls, if you're coming at it from that perspective. And well, if we look at some daily statistics over here, I think that the picture becomes a little bit more well-rounded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on the Krown Rage stats. By the way, both of these indicators come in the same package, as does several other indicators. In fact, if you actually already have this package, you should probably check your indicators list, because you probably got added like a few more indicators in the past week or two, and you're going to get more before the end of this month as well, but I won't spoil the surprise just yet. Anyways, okay, so when we look at the daily stats for Bitcoin, a couple things really stand out. I'm actually going to go over here to this one, although they should be about the same. They're very close. Okay, so we are going to be looking at all of the daily closures for Bitcoin throughout its history. In the case of Mondays, the amount of daily closures that have closed positively from open to close has been 43.75%. Okay, fair enough. This looks like it's probably going to be on that same side in the sense that, or I mean, not on the same side as the positive side, but it's going to be the negative side. So it's going to be, a little bit of a higher probability of a negative close. I think that's very likely what we're going to get today. However, what's even more interesting about this is that Monday, and this was a surprise for me, by the way, but Monday is the most volatile day for Bitcoin. It has the biggest returns both on the negative and positive side. Now, I'm pretty sure, although you can never be super positive, but pretty sure that today is going to be a negative day. And the average return on those negative closures is a loss of 2.25%, again, on average. So let me just go over here. And let's see, from today's open, what would basically 2.25% down look like? That would put Bitcoin about 42,700. That's actually even above that 42,400-ish number that we just spoke about earlier. Also, by the way, a perfect test of that 21 exponential, which is rather interesting too. So here's the thing. Today, very likely to be a negative closure. Yeah, okay. The average return, though, that we do expect for those negative closures, it's already overshot that by a great margin. So when we're talking about probabilities here, it would be less likely that we do see continuation, certainly today. But even with these numbers in mind, closing below the median on the daily is actually a little bit less likely as well. And I think that, the overall response that we've seen, and I think that this was like a very quick move. Yeah, pretty much most of it was bought back on up in the same 5-minute dildo right here. Very interesting. But what I'm trying to say is that I do think that the downside for today is very likely over. The question is, does Bitcoin fail that pivot or not at 42,400? I'm inclined to say that, based off statistics right here, it's a little bit less likely. And here's the thing, and here's what is even more important, actually, or what I'd say is probably more important, is that Tuesday is the most likely to be a positive day for Bitcoin at 42% closing positively of all daily closures, grossly overshadowing any other day. And the average return for that one, on the positive side and the negative side is basically 2%. So, does Bitcoin close somewhere around, 42.4 or 42.5 and reclaim that median and then boost back up another 2%? And then it's basically back around where this dump started tomorrow, where this dump started? Perhaps yes. And that would very likely lead towards continuation overall, because again, looking at this chart over here, Bitcoin very likely at least after testing the median is going to test, is going to test the top side of this 50% range yet again, which is 45,350. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that it all depends on today's daily closure. Below 42,400, or I would even say especially like 42,000, just even. Okay, Bitcoin's in corrective territory. Expect a likely another move back down to fill the wick at $40,000 in the coming days, and probably bounce there, but ultimately you'd probably see things will go lower over time as well, towards maybe $37,000. That'd be the next sort of major area of interest, at least in the way that I look at things. Somewhere between like 36.5 to $37,000. If Bitcoin does reclaim that median again, the upside pressure is still on, and this would just be viewed as like a very quick washout. Again, most of it done on just a fucking 5-minute dildo right there. And Tuesday, a likely day to be bullish. So I'd have to say that if I'm thinking probabilistically speaking, which is not always gonna be correct, but more likely to be correct, that things do continue upwards and onwards. And that was just, that was just an opportunity. I do want to reiterate my overall stance on this rally, however. You're starting to see the inverse, the reversal of exuberant, over optimistic bears to exuberant, overzealous, annoying bulls. Like, we're starting to see that reversal happen in sentiment, I do think. It's been happening for a while, obviously, but I think now it's starting to reach extreme levels on the other side. Like below $30,000, it was extreme in favor of the bears. Now it's starting to, above $40,000, getting extreme in favor of the bulls. So ultimately, this rally, again, I do think is starting to get very extended, like very, very extended. Do I think that it has one more push to the upside? Yes, I do, just based off of what we've spoken about many times on this channel. However, you know, I don't think it has like, I don't think that this is going to be like the moonshot rally or anything like that. I do think that we're still generally in a transitioning. I mean, it's not a transitioning market. I mean, obviously this is an uptrend, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, it's not like full fucking bull ahead or anything like that. You know, looking at the monthly right here, yeah, I still have to say, ultimately, this, you know, in this range, in the especially in the deep $40,000 territory, it's likely to be like a weekly swing high at some point. Don't think we're there just yet. And shit, anywhere below this week's low, by the way, which is already basically $40,000. You know, I'd be expecting a correction down to like 37 ish. But ultimately, yeah, it's very likely going to depend a lot on today's daily closure. If it's tight, if it's very, very close, meaning that the daily is like very close to 42,400, I'd probably err on the side of the bulls, but I still want to see it, you know, before tomorrow, or sorry, you know, after tomorrow, after the daily closure. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Again, big focus, 42,400. Above there, pressure back on, still more likely to continue on to the upside in the more near term. Below there, especially below 42,000, I'd say at that point, you're very likely to see 40,000 bucks again. And then if it really does trade below today's low, at that point, yeah, I'd just be looking towards 37-ish, somewhere around there. So other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. Let's restart this damn video, baby. No, what I'm trying to say is that I like to wish you the best. I expect that we'll have a lot more clarity on this situation by tomorrow. And yeah, as always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.